Welcome to the Every Brain is Different podcast. It is Samantha and Lauren here with you. And last week, we started the conversation of the 3 things that I would do as soon as your kid gets diagnosed, even maybe when you start suspecting autism, not even just the diagnosis part. But last week, we talked about the number 1 thing is to learn about your child, learn about autism, mostly learn about your child, like be a detective. Figure out what makes your child tick so you can support them better. I wanted to get your take on this, Lauren. So I was talking to someone today, and she is always telling me that I need to get my kids out and about, like one of my kids specifically, out and about, because he likes to be home. And her daughter told her if she wouldn't have forced her to go do things, that she wouldn't have went and done things, and she's very grateful that she made her go do things. So where is that line of respecting your child's boundaries, but also realizing that they need to learn to be in the world?
I deal with this with my brother, because if it was up to him, he would stay in his room and play video games all day. If you ask him if he wants to go somewhere, he's always going to say no. I don't ask. I say, hey, we're going to go do this. Get your shoes on. Because I'm his sister, I'm allowed to do that. And he's fine, and he goes, and he has a great time 99% of the time. He's never complained about it. And so I also occasionally, once in a while, do this with my roommate. Also doesn't want to leave the house and stuff. And it's just like, let's go. We're gonna go. We're leaving.
Yeah.
And so I think, yes, you can respect, but they can't stay home. It's not healthy, in my opinion, to be at home all day, every day, all the time. Even like if I could get away with that, I would. But I know it's not beneficial to me and my health and my mental health and all of that. And so I think, yes, you can respect, but I think effort should be made to do that and find approaches that work, that you don't get a battle. My brother might battle staff. Staff don't even ask, so we'll leave that there. But he's not gonna, he's like, okay. But he's not on his own gonna ever initiate that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's a good point. My friend's daughter said that she's grateful that her mom forced her to get out, or else she wouldn't have learned how to interact with people.
Yeah. And again, that interaction and that social, like, it's important. Whether we want to admit it or not, or want to be antisocial, it's just it's kind of just a part of life. And so, yeah, he could stay home, but I think you should definitely every now and then, whether he likes it or not, maybe we're going. This is a thing.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
I promise you'll like it.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot. Well, a lot of the time I'll say, well, we're going, you have to come. And then this person I was talking to thinks that I let him stay home too much, though. So I mean,
you know your child best, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. But I know that you don't let him stay home all day, every day.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I just thought it was interesting, something to think about, that my friend's daughter was like, I did not like you, but thank you for being mean. And I was like, oh, that, because I'm all about letting the child lead, doing what's, but there are times when you have to force them to do things for their own good.
Yeah, you're the adult, you're the parent. Like, there are tons of things that my parents, I absolutely hate them, but I am better off now because they forced me to do those things. Even though in the moment I was like, you're the worst parents ever. I never want to talk to you again. At the end of the day, they grew up, like, they were for my benefit, whether I realized at the time or not. And so, yeah.
Cool. That's part of what we're talking about today, is once your child is diagnosed and you need help, maybe you need help with these situations like this, you can apply for resources. There are resources available So a lot of people hear about Medicaid, but they say, well, I make too much for Medicaid. But there is a waiver within Medicaid called the Katie Beckett waiver that it's disability based. And we talked about this before, but doctors, therapists will not tell you about this waiver. I specifically asked the doctor when my son was diagnosed. I asked her, what resources are there? And she's like, oh, don't worry, you don't need any of them. She didn't tell me about the Katie Beckett waiver that pays for all your health care, your child's health care, even if it's not autism related. And I would argue that it is autism related because so many kids or people with autism have digestion issues and heart issues, and they all have those issues where people will be like, well, that's not related to autism, it's digestion. Well, they have the digestion issues because that's
Because of the
autism related
diagnosis.
So, yeah, it pays for all therapies, like traditional therapies, so speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, all those kinds of things. And then like in Idaho, we have the Family Direct, Self-Direct waiver that pays for the non-traditional therapies. But my point is, people, professionals, will not tell you about these lists, and it takes months to years to get approved. So that's why I say act early. If your kid gets approved, you have to have a diagnosis. In Idaho, you have to just be diagnosed with a developmental delay before the age of 5. And then after the age of 5, you have to have a more definitive diagnosis, but you can get it before the age of 5 if you just have like a global developmental delay. And so that's just one resource. But if you're interested in that, you would go to health and welfare or whatever the equivalent of health and welfare is in your state. It's the Medicaid office. You just go there and ask about the developmental disability waiver and they can help you. And pro tip, they might refuse you. They might deny you the first time. Apply again. It's a tactic. It's a tactic to weed people out so that
they don't want to pay.
Yeah, they don't want to pay. Someone from health and welfare straight up said, we make it hard so people won't use the program. Yeah. Which is completely ridiculous. But there it is.
It costs money and someone has to pay for it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And then there's other things like the 0 to 3 program. It's called different things in different states. But basically, you have someone come to your home, do therapy with your kid. And when they turn 3 years old, then they typically go to developmental preschool in the school district. But it's really hard to get into developmental preschool. At least in Idaho, you have to be in the bottom 7th percentile in 3 different areas to qualify for developmental preschool. Don't quote me on that. But I know it's the bottom 7th percentile. I don't know how many areas you have to be like in that group. But so there's those things. And then there are, once your kid is in school, there's IEPs, there's respite care. I mean, respite care is for those not in school too, but parent training, family support services, there's adaptive equipment, recreational scholarships, grants, and insurance case management. What I like is if your kid has a lot of specialists, there's actually a case manager that you can get that manages everything and helps you manage everything so that you're not going everywhere. But yeah, those are some of the things that you can get. And if I don't want to say too many things because it differs state by state.
By state, yeah.
Yeah. So
some states are better than others, some have more, some have less.
Yeah. So if you don't know the resources in your area, email me, email us. We will help you find the resources. Or the best resource that we've said on this show before is go to your local Facebook group. So in Idaho, it's Idaho Autism Moms. Or there is a group for dads too. It's Idaho Disabilities, Parents of Special Needs Kids or something like that. And I guarantee you there's one for your state or your area or something. Just search it. Search your location and autism and it will come up. And if you can't find it, let me know and I will help you find it. But that's who I recommend to go to for your state, your area specific resources, because those moms are in the know. They know. So if someone came to me and they said, I have an adult child that's autistic, I'm looking for them to do activities, I would guide them to, what's it called?
My Places.
My Places. Yeah. So I would direct them to My Places, the nonprofit, because I would direct them to Medicaid and those kinds of things. But also, if they're looking to get out and do activities, My Places is a great resource because they're doing things all the time. And that's just part of how the Idaho Autism Moms group works. Moms will go in there and ask a question and they'll get tons of replies like, oh, this is what I did. This is what I did. I asked the other day, I said, my son is not losing weight, but he's not gaining weight appropriately. What do you feed your kids when they won't eat anything? And so, or how do you hide, nutrients or whatever? And it was fantastic. So you can ask things like that, or you can ask straight up for other resources. Like, do you know of any speech therapists that don't have a wait list right now? Good luck with that. Sometimes it happens. But yeah, so if your kid needs like speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, anything like that, get them on the list early, because for music therapy, we have 100 kids on the waiting list. There's no way we're going to get through that list unless I hire more people, which I am actively working on hiring more people. But my point is, you want to be on the list, and you want to be on the list in multiple places. Like, people come to me and they say, I want music therapy. I say, that's great. We have a list of 100 people on the waiting list right now. Here are some other providers that you might want to go to see if their list is shorter.
Yeah. In the meantime.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to put you on the list, but you might get in with these people sooner. And I know a lot of providers that are willing to do that. They'll make recommendations because they know their list is long and they know there's enough business to go around. And so why not let the people go where they will get the business? They will get the services first. And a lot of families wait because they don't know for sure what they need. They don't know for sure. Like, they don't know what's out there, or they think someone will tell them what they need. They think that they don't qualify, or they'll be like, oh, I'm going to handle that later. But like I said, professionals aren't going to tell you, for the most part. They're not going to tell you what your kid needs unless you have a really good one. And they're getting better. But I wouldn't count on someone telling you what your kid needs.
Yeah.
You have to be really active and researching and all of that.
And a squeaky wheel. Yeah.
So when I applied for Medicaid for my second son, I applied and they denied us. And then I applied again and I called them. I called them once a week because, okay, at first I gave them a month. And then I called them after a month and I said, hey, what's going on with the application? Oh, we don't know where his application is. Did you submit an application? I'm like, yeah, I have this confirmation. Oh, well, maybe I'll get back to you. So they put me on hold. And then I get back on the phone. We don't know where his application is. You have to submit it again. They would have never told me if I wouldn't have called them. So I always recommend to parents, call and be a squeaky wheel. Even with music therapy, I do not care if parents call me and say, hey, where are we at on the waiting list? What's the waiting list looking like? Because something might have changed or their availability might have changed, and then we can get them in sooner. It just, don't be afraid of quote unquote bugging providers, because it's easy. I might have overlooked something. It's easy to overlook things. It's easy for things to fall through the cracks. Just keep calling. Maybe don't call a provider that has, 100 kids on the waiting list. Maybe don't call them once a week.
Yeah.
Once every...
Don't hesitate to check in.
Yeah, don't hesitate to check in, but maybe don't do it once a week. But with Medicaid, do it once
every day.
Yeah, do it every day if you want to. They're going to not like me. But anyway, and then keep a binder or a digital folder. I know a lot of families that just have a 3-ring binder and they print all the things. They have all the doctor's notes. They have all the therapy notes. They have where they applied to therapy. They have the Medicaid stuff, and they all have it in one binder So when they go to a new provider, they can hand the provider their binder, or they just have everything in one spot. And that's been recommended to me a lot. And so if you're a digital person, you can do it digitally, you can do it physically, whatever you want, and then save all your evaluations, because on the evaluations, they will put recommendations and then you'll have those recommendations. So sometimes they'll put books or other therapies or just whatever, and you'll have those evaluations to save. And then when you go to a new provider, I like when new clients come to me, I'm like, hey, what are you working in occupational therapy? What are you working in speech therapy? And they can just give me those evaluations and treatment plans. And it's easier that way than to be like, okay, I'll go call the speech therapist. I'll get the speech therapist to send it over. That's fine. You can do that. But if you just have it in your binder, you can be like, oh, here you go.
Yeah.
And it just seems a little bit easier. And then ask your providers, are there resources that I'm missing? So I had my daughter in occupational therapy when she was younger, and I asked her provider this, and her provider was like, is she diagnosed with autism? And I said, no. And she said, I think you should get an evaluation. I wasn't even suspecting autism in my daughter because she looks so different compared to my boys. And if not for that provider, I wouldn't have gotten her on the list to get evaluated. She wouldn't have been evaluated as early. And so just ask your provider, and maybe not every single session, but every once in a while, are there any resources that you recommend? Have you heard of any new resources? Are there any resources that my child doesn't have that maybe they should have?
Mm.
Yeah, so just ask. And then providers are more willing to give you recommendations. Because I know as a provider, I sometimes hesitate to give recommendations to parents because I don't want to overload them. I don't want them to think I'm telling them what to do. I don't want them to think I'm judging them, that they're not doing a good job. And so it's kind of scary to give recommendations when it's not directly related to your line of work. I might see a client and be like, oh, this did happen. They seem to be having trouble with vision, not vision normally, but like visual processing. And I told the mom, I was so nervous. I was like, have you had him evaluated for visual processing disorder? And she's like, no, but what is that? And she was super receptive to it. Where another time I made a recommendation that wasn't to do with music therapy, and they're like, how dare you? Music therapy is your job. So you just never know. So that's why providers might be a little leery to give recommendations that aren't directly related to their job.
Their field.
Yeah. But they know of a lot of different things. So you can just ask, and then they'll happily give you recommendations, unless it's that doctor that my son got diagnosed from. Apparently they don't give recommendations. I'm still mad about that. It's been like 8 years and I'm still floored that she's like, your child just got diagnosed with autism, but you don't need any resources. It's fine.
What? Not even a what is autism?
Yeah. She was like, you can go to autismspeaks.org. And I was like, okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. But most providers will give you recommendations if you ask for it. But I wouldn't count on them just giving them
willing it without prompting.
Yeah. So this is your action step. If you haven't done this, just call your state's developmental disability office if you're not on Medicaid, if you want that resource. Because I know some people don't want it. I don't understand people, but I know some people don't want it, and that's fine. And then ask your pediatrician for referrals if you don't know of anything. Like if you feel like your child might need some resources, but you just don't know what's out there, talk to your pediatrician. You can contact us, but your pediatrician knows your child a lot better than we would. And so they might be like, oh yeah, you need occupational therapy, you need speech therapy. You can always contact us and tell us about your child and we can make recommendations, but yeah, whatever you want. And then If you think your child needs an IEP at school, a 504 accommodation plan, if you think your child needs help at school, contact the school in writing and ask for an assessment. And they have to do one within 60 days. And so, yeah, but ask for it in writing because then it's documented.
Everything in writing with the schools.
Yeah, everything. Everything for insurance and school. Make sure it's in writing.
It might feel like an extra step, but at the end of the day, it'll help you in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. So pick one of those things. Don't do all of them. Just pick one. And let us know if you have any questions. We would love to help you. And then if you want a resource that tells you about more resources without asking anyone, because sometimes I don't like asking people for help. I just want to download something. You can go to everybrainisdifferent.com and get our guide to raising neurodivergent kids. And there it is.
Even better.
If you feel like not asking anyone for help or talking to anyone, it's cool. Yeah.
I was going to add to the list that you just, the Facebook groups out there.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe join one of those.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
So,
for sure. Okay, next week, we're going to talk about building your support system. So
you're not alone.
Yeah, you don't have to be alone. It's fine. Okay, goodbye. That's like a phone call, but goodbye.